Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is How to Get Away with Murder, Season 5, Episode 3, and the name of this episode is The Baby Was Never Dead. This was a really good episode, and we're starting to get more and more close to find out who got murdered at Connor and Oliver's wedding. So the episode picks up where it left off, where Michaela is asking Bonnie, whose blood is that? Whose blood is that, Bonnie? And Bonnie says, don't sweat it, I just cut myself shaving. And then it goes back to 2 months prior. And we see that Annalise has taken on the case that Emmett gave her on the last episode about this psychopath CEO who murdered his business partner. The guy's name is Niles Harrington, and his business partner was Andrew Rowling. And what happened is that supposedly Niles killed, his business partner, using a belt. And pretty much he actually has this book that he wrote called The Psychopath CEO. So immediately this is definitely roughing some feathers with the jury and everybody, because here it is, he's this very big, misogynistic and chauvinistic personality, and he's that type of person that his ego is so big you can't tell him shit. But then pretty much they start reading from the book and all of that, and it's funny thing is because the book was kind of reminiscent of O.J. Simpson's book, If I Did It, so it's like the image, his image is also on trial as well. Alright, well, I'm just going to talk about this case, and then I'm going to talk about everything else that happened, because this was the case that Emmett had put on to Annalise. We see at first Doris, who is now secretary, was actually supposed to have been one of their witnesses, but then she actually flips on them, and she ends up testifying for the prosecution as well. And the person who's actually the prosecutor is Miller, the DA. And we also see that Asher is now working as his intern, and he's also dating Bonnie. So they put her on the stand, and like they pretty much he asks her, like, why are you now switching with the prosecution instead of being with the defendant? And she puts it out there that she was afraid that he was going to kill her too and strangle her with the belt. So now Annalise is kind of having this game plan, like, look, we need to find something on the damn secretary, because she's been a secretary for 12 years. And in the moment, she just flips on him. So, Annalise's idea is that let's put her on the stand and let's break her down, because after all, she was on our side and then she flipped. But Emmett doesn't want to do that. Niles, being the asshole that he is, wants to put himself on the stand. And Annalise says that, look, you didn't hire me for this shit. And then Niles was like, well, I didn't hire you. I hired Crawford, who's Emmett. And he said that, put me on the stand. And we literally see that Emmett pretty much sucks up to him and kisses his ass and says, okay, we'll prep you tonight, even though Annalise says that this is a bad idea. And then later on, we see that her and Emmett have a moment, and she introduces him to Oliver, who she hired as her tech guy to help with the case, and he's going to do some investigation on Doris. And Crawford was like, we agreed against that. She's like, yeah, we did, but, I'm going to have this as a backup plan, so when your shit don't work, you'd be glad I saved your ass. And then we also, found out, too, that the reason why Emmett is sucking up to Niles is because if he wins his case, he's going to bring all of his files, and he's going to pretty much bring his whole company, to Kaplan and Gold, and they'll be managing all of his divisions. So therefore, that will replace everything that they lost with Antares. So we see later on Annalise goes in and she sees that Tegan's there. And she's like, "What the hell is Tegan doing here?" Well, Emmett says, like, "Well, you disagree with my idea. Tegan actually agrees." And we hear like Niles is very misogynistic, very chauvinistic, very egotistical, and he's just talking out of his ass. And I like the actor that plays Niles. He was actually in the movie Election, and I loved his character in that because his character literally, gets shamed for having an affair with Reese Witherspoon's character Tracy Flick. I definitely remember him, and he kind of plays some of a similar role here, where he literally is just straightforward and no one's going to tell him otherwise. And he starts going in on Annalise. He's like, "What is it about you, Annalise, that you don't like me? Is it maybe because you've had a dry spell ever since your husband died? You sitting up here trying to be this career woman, but yet you have nobody to hold you at night, and and maybe this is what's making you doze because you don't have a man and all this shit." And then Tegan kind of stepped in to help defend Annalise because Tegan's like, "You're not gonna attack her womanhood like that, not while I'm standing here." And she's saying that maybe it's the fact that you're such a career woman is the reason why you're so dry and why no man want to date you. She says, "No, it's because of misogynistic men like you who are walking around is the reason why women rather focus on their career than focus on that." And he said, like, "The best thing that ever happened to me was my wife. She made me a better man. And what you women need to do is need to put on some heels and go find you a man, because this whole career shit ain't everything." I mean, there was some validity to what he was saying, that you can't put your all into your career and neglect your heart. I could get that, but the way he said it was so disrespectful and so so egotistical and rude. And Annalise, like, "You really want to put this assholes on the stand? Like, they already hate his ass. This is gonna make them hate him even more." Got it. Yeah. So of course but in this situation, Tegan and Annalise started to bond, and now they're cool. Where at first, Tegan didn't want Annalise working there. And we actually come to find out later on that, Oliver finally gets to the bottom of things. He hacks Doris's account and comes to find a secret email. And it's from Bethany to Andrew, and what comes out of that is they find out that Bethany was actually having an affair with Niles' business partner Andrew. And when Andrew was going to leave the company, that whole company would have tanked if Andrew left, because they were business partners. So without both of them being there, everything was going to come crashing down on Niles, and because of that, she killed him. But Niles knew this and literally told them, "I will kill both of you before I see Bethany go down for this. She did this for me, and I will do the time for her because she did everything she could to protect me." But Annalise sees right through it. She says, "She didn't protect you. She was protecting the money. That's why she was having an affair in the first damn place. Obviously, she was gung-ho about the money, and by him leaving, that was going to affect her living, and that's why she did it." But then he's like, "You don't know anything about love." I'm like, "Niles, you asshole." And as I said, it was kind of similar to the character he played in Election. So definitely check out Election with Matthew Broderick and Reese Witherspoon. It's a hilarious movie, but he's in the movie, and and his character was just hilarious. But but then one thing they also did in the trial as well is, they go back. I mean, Annalise and Emmett go back and forth about what they're gonna do next. In regards to how they're gonna prove that Niles is innocent of all this. They think about the belt. So when Doris is on the stand and she's being cross-examined by Annalise. Annalise pretty much says she should try on the belt to try to eradicate herself from the crime. But then Miller comes up and says that, how do we know that? I mean, pretty much she's saying that why are you subjecting the witness to this? And if she has to try it on, then Niles needs to try it on too. So she tries on the belt fits because, and if anything, it was a woman's belt. So of course she could fit it. But then all of a sudden Niles tries on the belt and we see that he can't even fasten it. So the belt is too big, and then he puts up, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. I'm like, see, that's the shit that got you fucked up. Because what ended up happening is that the jury found his ass guilty, and he ends up going down, mainly because of his personality. The psychopath CEO he was guilty just by affiliation. And he actually goes down for his wife's crime, which is crazy. But then also there's a lot of things that's going on, like outside of the case. We see that Laurel is having issues with Christopher because Christopher doesn't laugh, and she's just been really struggling with that. But we also I noticed something too, that Gabriel is kind of taking a fancy to Laurel, because Laurel's a single mom, and then he says, I'm a product of a single mother too, and I know how hard it is, so don't be so hard on yourself. But then he's like, well, maybe the baby not laughing at you because you're not funny. I was like, Gabriel is so slick. But definitely we also get a little bit about Gabriel too, because we see that while Gabriel's in his apartment, he's putting everything he's doing on this hard drive, and he hides all of this stuff in this red bag that he puts up in the fireplace. Frank, as we remember from the last episode, has cameras in his apartment, so he sees everything he's doing. Frank breaks into the apartment, goes into the bag, and see that he actually had another ID. Gabriel has another ID, and the name on the ID is Mark Jackson. So is he really Mark Jackson, or is he really Gabriel Maddox? Which one is who? But we definitely know Gabriel definitely got some shit with him. And what he does is that he takes the hard drive to so what Frank does is that he takes the hard drive to his friend Otis. Otis pretty much does some work on it, and he says that pretty much what it is that he has a lot of anonymous emails, so you can't trace who he's talking to or whoever. But what I can do is set up this I can put this thing in it where you'll be able to see everybody that he's talking to online, and he won't have a clue. So we pretty much see that Otis sets that up for Frank. So now we realize it was Otis who Frank was talking to the entire time. At first I thought it was Annalise, but Annalise has no clue about Gabriel or this whole connection to Bonnie. So that was something that was interesting. But it was also, what I found funny too, is that towards the end of the episode, finally, Christopher started laughing, and Laura was so happy. Oh my God, he laughed for the first time. And then Annalise was like, really? He laughs with me all the time. I was like, it's funny because the baby has already built a good rapport with Annalise, and it just kind of goes to show that Wes's seed is actually connected to her, and it's like, because she's Christopher's godmother, so that was pretty funny that Annalise was like, he laughs with me all the time. He probably kind of put it out there that Laurel's not funny, so I thought that was pretty funny. Let's see. Oh yes, another thing that's going on is Oliver ends up, after him working on Harrington's case, Emmett actually hires Oliver, and of course Connor's kind of like, well, do you sure you want to work here again? He was like, well, the fact that I damn near got gangrene from that damn thing on my finger, and due to the fact that we don't have the means to do a wedding or to have a reception, I need the money. Because we saw early in the episode, Oliver got gangrene because he balled up his fist, and remember, he, the ring is actually, the actual, twisty that you put on bread. He put that on his finger because Connor doesn't have any money, and due to the fact that Connor's now a full-time college student, he doesn't have the money. He doesn't have that kind of money. And he also no longer have the financial support of his father, so Connor's pretty much being cared for by Oliver, and Oliver is helping to care for him while he's going to school. But Oliver's like, look, we need the money if we're gonna have this big wedding and all that. So hey, Kaplan and Gold is where it's at. So we saw that go down. And another thing that was really tripping me out in this episode was Michaela and her sorry ass. Michaela, I think, has this, what Annalise diagnosed last season is that Michaela is looking for like this mother figure or someone to kind of cuddle her and make her feel good, and I actually know people in my family who have this problem. Like they don't want to be alone. They have to be in a relationship in order for them to feel whole. And we definitely see that with Michaela. Like, she definitely, needs some type of attachment to her in order for her to feel whole. And we see that she's doing all this shit for Tegan. Like she still has her password to her calendar, so she like prepped her case for. Tegan came up in the lab, was like, did you do this shit? And Michaela was like, well, yes, I still have the password to your calendar. She's like, stay out of my calendar and stay the hell out of my life. And then later on, she sees Annalise talking to Tegan, and Michaela's jealous. And then Michaela's like, well, why is it that you even forgiven everybody, even Annalise, and you're even cool with Laura, but you're mad at me? Why me? Like, look, you were everything to me. You were strong, you were powerful, you were intelligent, and you were nice. And then Tegan flips it on her. She's like, yeah, I was nice. And I remember when I sat there and I told you all of my dreams and aspirations, and I told you how much I gave up for my career, my girlfriend, my livelihood, a family. I put everything into this, and I was about to launch a new career endeavor for myself where I was going to get my own practice. And you were lying to my face the entire time. You lied about taking my card. You lied about your involvement in this whole takedown of Antares. But she's like, but I had to do it because I was trying to help my friend because her father murdered her boyfriend. She's like, if you don't keep your damn voice down, stupid. But she says, after all of this, now, I'm now playing second fiddle to Annalise. My career now, I'm now working for another chauvinistic white man, where I was doing everything I could to break out of that system, and now I'm kind of in the dumps, and yet I have to see you here building your career, being a part of Annalise's clinic. We are far past of you being fucking sorry, Michaela. And I was like, there you go. Michaela needed to know the truth that, bitch, she trusted your ass, and you practically took her to the cleaners. And now she feels some kind of way because later on, we see that when she sees Annalise and Tegan going home together, she was about to pour her a glass of Bombay Sapphire. She ended up taking the whole damn bottle and started drinking. And then the next thing you know, we see she's at damn Connor's. She's at Asher's place, hoping Asher's gonna be there, but Asher's gone. And Frank runs into her because Frank, after he gets information from Otis, he puts the hard drive back into, he breaks back into Gabriel's place and puts the hard drive back. And remember, he lives right across the hall from Asher, who now is staying in Wes's old apartment. So while Frank is coming downstairs, he sees Michaela coming upstairs, hoping that Asher was going to be there. And she breaks down and starts crying and saying that, nobody likes me. Tegan hates me especially. And Frank kind of comforts her and says, like, look, you're being too hard on yourself, and, why were you here? To see Asher, to hope that he's going to take you back? And she was like, well, no. And he kind of gives her that look like, bitch, who you think you fooling? And she's like, yeah, I was hoping that, and it just goes to show that Michaela needs someone, to attach herself to, because on her own, she's kind of crumbling, where she's looking for a connection. And the funny thing about it, I really do think Michaela really has feelings for Tegan, because all of a sudden she's like, I'm not giving up on us. I'm like, really, bitch? I was like, okay, Michaela, So it seemed to me that, because even when her and Tegan were having that conversation last season, when Tegan was sharing her dreams and aspirations and why she was looking for Antares going public, we could kind of see that Michaela was kind of giving this look to Tegan like she wanted to eat her for lunch. So I'm like, it's a whole lot going on with that situation. But, Frank takes her home because, she starts asking him about Laurel, and he's like, of course I'm still mad at Laurel, and I still have feelings for her. But he's kind of letting her know that, look, you can't allow that to drive you, and he ends up taking her home because she's drunk as hell. Alright, so we got that. I talked about that, and oh yeah, and there was one scene that was real funny. Like, they were all sitting at the table and they were all kind of looking at Gabriel because, when they see that Oliver's here, Oliver's like, yeah, it's good to be back here, and I also get to see my little boyfriend. And he's looking at Gabriel because Gabriel's pretty. Gabriel's fine. And Michaela, Laurel, and all of them are looking, and Connor even looked and kind of gave a wink like, I'm like, Connor, you asshole. But we all know that Connor was a playboy before he got with Asher, and in all honesty, Connor still got that in him. But, yeah, I thought that scene was kind of funny. Let's see, I already talked about that. And then another thing that we dealt with in this episode is that the governor is coming for Annalise, and now she's calling for this executive order that her students have to pass the ethics committee exam in order for them to work on her cases with a class action suit. So we see at first Connor calls Asher. Now remember, Asher is now working for Miller, and Asher right now is in his feelings, so he's like, I'm not helping you, Annalise, or that damn clinic, so no. And pretty much what Annalise says is that, look, you guys got to study and you guys got to make this happen, because without this there will be no more clinic and no more 64,000. So pretty much we see that they appear before the ethics committee. They're getting all these questions, and the questions are being asked, saying, well, what if your employer tells you to do this? What do you do? If she says this, how do you respond? And all of them in the clinic are responding accurately, and we see that their answers are matching each other. But Connor, I was so here for him, because Connor began to attack them, and he was saying that, what the hell is going on? Because you keep on using she. So it seems to me that this whole thing has been set up by the governor to personally attack Annalise for doing these class action suits. Obviously, this situation is proving the fact that we need more lawyers, to defend our people. And the people need our help. I want to help them. So why are you using this so-called ethics board to get in the way of that? You guys are trivializing the whole process of the justice system, and you're attacking somebody who wants to make it better. And I was just sitting there like, Connor, you better fucking do it. You better let these motherfuckers know what it's all about, because he knows at the end of the day this is all an attack against Annalise, to prevent her, because she just won her first class action lawsuit, and the governor is trying to do everything they can to stop Annalise from winning, because this proves that the justice system has not been operating, effectively. So the governor's taking it as a personal attack. So she's personally going after Annalise to prevent Annalise from further winning any more cases, or being able to even bring these cases to trial. Okay, another thing we also saw in this episode too is that Nate, we see that he's still dating the lady that works at the DNA office. We see that Nate goes, we see that from the last episode, Nate got that picture of this woman taking a baby, and the woman looks exactly like Bonnie. And we see that Nate goes and finds the nurse that was working at the hospital at the time. She was saying that, the baby was so beautiful. He was left there with just a note attached to him. We all were debating how who was gonna want to adopt him, but then like 2 days afterwards he was kidnapped and I got blamed for it, you know. And then we also find out that Annalise got a trial date for Nate's father, you know, who we met last season as well. And then Nate does some digging and comes to find out that the nurse that was working in the hospital, she now has stage 4 cancer. And pretty much he goes back to visit her again. She at first is pushing him off and everything, but then he was saying that, see, you're lying, and I think you're trying to take this out of your grave, and that's what's killing you, you know. And then she pretty much says that, look, the baby was dropped off by his grandfather, you know. And next thing you know, 2 days later, the mother comes and asks for the baby back, and she comes and gets the baby back, but we just didn't want nothing on file, so therefore I didn't say anything. So she knew about what happened, you know, because she saw her take the baby, but they said that, you know, the father didn't want you know, they didn't want any attention from the law nor from the press, so she just kind of kept it hidden and didn't say anything. And then when he showed her a picture of Bonnie, she said yes, that it was her. So after Nate gets to the bottom of this, he takes this to Annalise and says that, look, Bonnie kidnapped her own baby, you know, years ago, and the baby's alive. And Annalise looks at the picture and is like, no, that's not Bonnie. That's Bonnie's sister. And I'm like, holy shit. So Bonnie got a damn sister that looks a lot like her. And we actually see we actually see in one part of the episode, Gabriel uses his phone and he's like, oh, hi, Mom. And then he starts talking, and immediately Oliver saw this, and immediately it dawned on Oliver, that's who Frank is trying to investigate, because he remembered from the last episode, he asked him, how do you hack a flip phone? And he said that you can't hack a flip phone. It's personally designed, so therefore no one can track it. And when he saw that Gabriel had a flip phone, he's like, we in college, everybody got all the, you know, Androids and iPhones, and you got a flip phone? That definitely, you know, rang in Oliver's mind. So now Oliver, you know, has a sense, this is who Frank is after. Oh yes, and another thing that also happened too was Bonnie and Miller. We see that Asher is now working for Miller as his intern, you know, and then we see in one scene, Asher is trying to tell Miller like his next, you know, Annalise's next move, because he's been in her inner circle, so he knows how she works. So he's turning on Annalise the same way Bonnie did when she came to the work at the DA's office. You know, it's like Bonnie and Asher had that in common. When they get in their feelings, they want to turn on Annalise, because, you know, but the thing about it, this episode shows exactly what Annalise was saying about Asher, that Asher likes to people please, and he acts like a clown, and that he needs to man the fuck up. We kind of see in this episode she was right, because Asher is really on some emotional shit. Because then so of course, you know, Miller's like, man, what the hell, you know, you only been in her circle for like 5 minutes. And he said, I see, that's why Bonnie didn't want your ass here. He's like, oh, no, that's not the reason. And he was like, well, what reason is there? And he lets him know that him and Bonnie used to date. So of course Miller's upset because he had to hear this from Asher and not from her. But of course Bonnie backs down. I mean not back down, but Bonnie, you know, shoots back at him and was like, oh, so I'm supposed to tell you who everybody I sleep with, you know, and maybe I need to ask about all the damn paralegals you fucked around with. And then she was saying that, look, I'm not perfect, and as far as what I see, neither are you. So she kind of like blew him off. She later on goes to talk to Annalise about it, because we see afterwards, later on, Asher comes up with another plan, saying that I got another way to get at Annalise. You know, instead of us going after this whole case, let's make a deal with her. And he shows about the executive order is now effective immediately. So, the DA has the power to stop this whole thing. So he says, I'll make you a deal. I'll stop the executive order, you know, and your boy will do 10 years for voluntary manslaughter. Now, normally, Annalise will take a deal like this, but because she's loyal to Emmett, her employer, she turned it down. But then we also kind of see that Emmett ain't all squeaky clean as he's out to be, because now I'm thinking, because like all of a sudden when he was attacking Annalise and Tegan, telling them that they need to put on some high heels and get a man and shit, we see that Emmett was standing up for them, and he was like, look, you need to stop this or I'm gonna drop your case. He says, fool, please, you can't afford to drop this case, not after all of the crap you did at the London firm. You need this case and you need me, so cut the bullshit. And Annalise started to be like, oh, so that's the reason why your ass is up here. See, at first he made it seem as if he was there to try to help. They kept playing to help that location because they lost the Antares file. We come to find out the reason why he's there is because London sent him there because of his misconduct at the London firm. We don't know what kind of misconduct he's done, but we know he's done some foul shit. So we're starting to see that, yeah, Emmett ain't all what he cracked up to be, because after he lost the case, he gets on the phone with somebody and he says, look, I got another case I'm trying to come up with. So obviously he has to get a big win, or that may be the end of his ass. How it's going to be in, whether he's going to get fired or thrown in jail, we don't know. But we see that that's why he got Annalise, because Annalise is the best, and he wants Annalise to help him win these cases so it can save his ass. So I'm like, Annalise is starting to pull shit together that, oh, this motherfucking Emmett's on some foul shit too. So afterwards, we see that, due to the fact that they found Niles guilty, that means, the prosecution won the case, which was Miller. So of course, Asher is excited. So he says, so does this mean I get a full-time, does this mean I'm on full-time? And he says yes. And he's like, okay, man, yeah. And then he tells Asher to go home, and then we see that he starts to feel some kind of way because he sees Miller and Bonnie go into a room. And I'm like, Asher, don't be on no bullshit, because I'm starting to think Asher feels some kind of way because now Bonnie is no longer available. Now that this whole situation he had between him and Michaela's falling apart, he's now also looking for someone to latch himself onto. And now he realized that the dude he works for is now dating his ex. And we can see Asher's in his feelings about that. And I'm like, Asher, if you do something fucking stupid, Bonnie's gonna fuck you up. And I will be all here for her doing it, because Asher, you need to grow the fuck up and get out your feelings. Just because Michaela broke your heart don't mean you need to come and try to sabotage Bonnie's shit just because you unhappy. But I do love Asher though. But yeah, Asher right now is in his feelings, and we can tell. So then afterwards, we get like a glimpse back at the day of the wedding. We see that the DJ is calling for the lovebirds to come out. We see Connor comes out. Connor is completely fucked up. Like, somebody literally beat Connor's ass. And he's like, where's my husband? And he keeps calling for Oliver, but Oliver is not appearing. And then we see that Michaela notices that Bonnie lied because she sees blood on Bonnie's neck. A dot of blood. So she realizes Bonnie's not telling the full truth as to what happened or whose blood that is. And that's where the episode ended. So I wonder... but personally, I don't think Oliver's dead. I don't think Oliver's in the box. I'm sorry, I don't think Oliver was in the snow. But the question is, who was there? And from the preview, we see Annalise break down, so we obviously know it's somebody that's close to Annalise. The question is, who is it? And I think in time, we're gonna get to the bottom of that. So that's what I have, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell to get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I'll be back with the next episode of How to Get Away with Murder. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next, man. This show has me on the edge of my seat. And Shonda Rhimes, you are killing it with How to Get Away with Murder. And I can't wait to see what happens next. So until next time, everybody, take care.